of know-how, but they need to grow further and can only do that by obtaining further management experience, by obtaining further know-how on how international markets in their specific sectors work. And also when we look at H&A, a company which daily business is to deal with other countries, to deal with other cultures, to deal with other countries' customers, expanding on such a scale requires a tremendous amount of customer know-how, requires understanding the dynamics of a very volatile market, of a highly competitive market, and looking at, for example, the airline industry. Some have come, some have gone, and some have failed from very high to a very low position. Now H&A is doing quite good. So Hainan, even Hainan Airlines, they have expanded a lot over the last years. They have invested heavily into improving their equipment, improving their technology, improving their services. They have expanding their routing. They have direct flights to Europe. They have a direct flight into Switzerland. But yet again, they are not really considered from an overseas standpoint as a global company, as a global brand. So the airline sector or flying is, the requirements are very different. And the understanding is very different when it comes to service quality. When we look at Europe, European customers looking at airline industry and looking about how the typical customer would consider an airline to be good or feeling comfortably in an airline. Again, differs because the culture is different from, like Asians, for example, would look at that, or Chinese would look at that. So even though Hainan Airlines has expanded a lot into foreign markets, and even though they have quite good business, bringing all those millions of Chinese tourists into Europe, they still don't really have a good positioning when it comes to the evaluation of European customers with regards to a Chinese airline. When you take a plane, or I ask my friends or I ask my colleagues when they go to China, they are still in a situation that they would say, well, if they can afford, so either from a timely perspective or from a financial perspective, of course, especially when you are a businessman, and you say you need to go to China, in most cases, they will still go for a European airline. So it's difficult. So again, you have Hainan Airlines, a very, very good company with very good service, having improved a lot into technology. Taking Hainan Airlines, you sit on the plane, you are in business class, people are very nice, very nice stewardesses. You have lots of TV programs, you have a lot of movies to select from. So the overall environment appears to be very nice. But from a European perspective, the kind of how they approach the service, how they manage the flight and everything that comes with the flight, from checking in to getting on the plane to getting your food to listening to the music or watching TV, is very much focused on the Chinese customers. So it's not really fit for Europeans. You don't find a European newspaper. You don't have European magazines. So if you get on a European airline nowadays, if you want to find a Chinese magazine or Chinese newspapers, you get them. But if you get on a Chinese airline, it's still very much different. So Hainan Airlines wants to improve, and they know they need to improve. And in order to grow globally as a real global brand, they need to focus on other customers again than just on the Chinese customers, even though it's a huge market. But if you want to internationalize and really achieve a global brand recognition and really want to get into the league of global brands, you need to change. And in this very sector, what you need to change and what you need to improve is the management level. So you have to have foreign management experience. You have to team up somehow of getting a different approach into customer management, environment management, and business management, whatever. So this is where Hainan Airlines very much focuses on in its internationalization efforts, and especially HNA Group. Now, looking at the NH Group and looking at hotel management, they also have a very interesting approach, because when they look into the European market, of course they do have a very good business model. They do have a very good strategy. They do have a lot of experience on the Chinese market, and they're very big in Europe. So they have done something wrong. They have engaged very heavily in the market. They have invested a lot in the market. They have obtained a lot of other companies to make sure that they can develop along their traditional business line. They focus still a lot and very much, of course, on Chinese tourists. And of course, it's a good approach because there are more and more Chinese tourists getting into everywhere in the world. You have the biggest growth in foreign tourists in Europe coming from China, and it will continue because there are still many, many potential tourists in China who have not yet traveled to Europe, who have not traveled to Europe yet in a way that they want to do further in the future. So Chinese tourism in Europe and everywhere will increase over the next years. And they do need the very specific environment. They do need to feel comfortable. They do need to have hotels and a tourism industry that caters to their needs. So HN Group has been doing very smartly in this respect. But then again, what they very much focus on is being abroad and using the experience you can gain when being abroad to improve your quality, improve your standard. So for HN Group, their main understanding of obtaining and other companies or merging with other partners is really very much focusing on improving service quality, improving your specific sector of industry. And they're doing quite good. So I would say both Hainan Group, Hainan Airline Group, and HN Group, they've been doing very smartly in the overseas expansions. Because they say we want to improve our quality, we want to improve our management experience, this improves our branding, this raises the understanding overseas with regards to our products. And we can see here again from the performance